It's Mosen.
Mosen, yeah.
Yeah.
If he's here.
Mosen is here.
Yeah, I just saw Mosen.
Okay, we are live.
Good morning, everyone, dear friends. Here we are once again on a beautiful Sunday, wherever you are, no matter if it's cloudy or not, it's beautiful. But anyways, here we are again for another weekend of enlightenment and a study about the doctrine of the spirits that taught us the universal law of the gospel according to the spirits. Before we start our program, I'd like to invite our brother Mosen for to lead us in a prayer. Mosen, the mic is yours.
Unmute.
Have a ear problem, maybe I can do.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tanya.
Okay. So let us, brothers and sisters, in this moment, with such love and gratitude in our hearts, for gathering together here on this beautiful Sunday in November 9 of 2025. Let us thank you, our Heavenly Father, for this beautiful universe. To all the workers of the lights that are working with Jesus, the Christ of our galaxy, and this beautiful planet that we are all in together. Let us, beloved brothers and sisters, embrace one another with love, with joy in our heart for being gathering together. We humbly ask and embrace our beloved mentors and the mentors of Bezerra Spiritual Healing Center, Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, and all the great workers that has done so much to help our spirit in our evolution here on earth. We humbly ask for your blessings and your wisdom, and bless our beloved brother Mark, who are bringing the message and the teachings today to each of us. With gratitude to each of you, beloved brothers and sisters, for being here together, we open our beautiful Sunday service today. And so be it, and so it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Tanya. We appreciate very much. And just a few reminders before we begin. Well, we would suggest that you have besides you a glass of water or a bottle of water so we can accompany you throughout the session. Not that it's mandatory, but it's helpful because this water will be fluidified by our enlightened spirits that will be assist each one of us throughout the presentation. And take notes because there's a lot of information. And it's important that we capture as much as we can from the teachers that's coming through our brother that's going to present the topic today. So Bezerra Spiritual Center is a nonprofit organization that is leading this beautiful gathering of interested people that are here to learn about the spiritism. And we are fortunate to have the Bezerra Spiritual Center assisting us in the English language, which is an amazing accomplishment. We appreciate it so much. Because these teachings, even though initiated back in old France, it's now going throughout the planet in many different languages. But today, our presentation is going to be led by our brother Mark. But if you are interested on learning more about the service of the Bezerra Spiritual Center, please visit our website. Which is being posted now but if you Google it, we have a number of sessions and meetings that study the teachings of the spirits. So this service of today, Sunday, it's a weekly event where we gather in order to share a specific topic, and at the end we invite for your opinion, for your questioning, so we can enrich our presentations. But throughout the week, we have events every single day of the week, in particularly at the prayer circle that we have every day of the week at 6 p.m. You are more than welcome to join and participate with us because we understand the importance of prayers and how it affects not only our lives, but those around us. So please visit our website for more information on every event that we have, that we offer. I don't have control over the slide over here, but I would like to make sure that our brother Mark is introduced, and he's a very familiar person in our group. So Mark, please save me, take over.
Okay. Let's see. Rachel seems to be the only one I have not known for a length of time. The rest of you have seen me for however many times online, learning alongside you, and occasionally getting this opportunity to share what I have been assigned. At least that's how it was until this occurred. And when this occurred, something different happened. And before I get into the presentation, I just want to say that it may be that I'm a living element and proof of the law of progress. It may be, because I was absolutely guided on how to do today's presentation. I'm not sure anybody's ever done this presentation like this before. And before I bring it up, I want to tell you that the background in putting this information together comes directly from both the Spirits book and presentations from other spiritists. And so on this very topic of the law of progress, there's a plethora of spiritists who have done these questions. And I was able to find them over a series of years on Kardec Radio and a couple of other websites as well. And it is from that that I can only say I got inspired to take the approach I'm taking. So let me bring this to life here. And hopefully you can all see this, yes? Okay. So the law of progress. Again, as an introduction, give me a second, I need to do something. There we go. Give me some size. I'm going to do a timeline based on history. So again, there's a number of different presentations done by other spiritists that have included different elements of history as it relates to spiritism and the principles discussed in spiritism. Not necessarily the law of progress, but in these other presentations. But there were a number of presentations that have cited very specific points in history. And I'm going to talk about them today in today's presentation. But really, I want to tell you, I'm not going to review every question and answer in this chapter as it relates to the law of progress. I'm going to take those answers and I'm going to put them into categories. And these are the categories most commonly discussed in the world of spiritism when we're talking about the law of progress. And basically what this is a summary of the key principles of these questions and their answers. And then I'm going to align the two things together. And what you'll see is how the law of progress has manifested itself throughout history on these key events. And hopefully, as we do this, I'll ask the right questions, or you'll realize on your own that you get the ability to do what I've done as I was preparing this, and that's to kind of assess our own progress as it relates to all of humanity. Because the ultimate goal for everything as a human is moral perfection. And that is the principle of the law of progress. See what happened. What happened? It could not be on. Oh, bummer. Something got broke. Sorry. Let's try it again. So, these categories, as has been summarized by others, there is the nature, or what is progress, There is social and moral development towards that ultimate goal of perfection. And how the role of free will and other divine laws come into play. There's the reality of human resistance to progress. And we're going to talk about that. But those of us who work through this, and after successive reincarnations, we develop a mission. And then we talked about how all this ties together to the future of humanity. So that's a pretty interesting way of looking at the questions and answers on the law of progress. And then I'll summarize with some insights I've gained in doing this. Wow, this is not automatically advancing. So the law of progress is one of the natural laws, the divine natural laws. It governs the moral and intellectual evolution of humanity. Again, I kind of prepared you for that in words and slide points earlier. But I'm going to show you again how this all ties together, and I'm going to do it by explaining both of these categories and timelines in segments. So the nature of progress is something that applies to everything, all worlds, including Earth. So that's an interesting statement, because Spiritism, we know, applies universally when we're talking about divine laws. But on Earth, the best way to interpret this is it applies in all physical locations to all life forms. Now, if you look at human history, the evolution of humans on this planet occurred not in one place, but in multiple places. Intellectual development precedes moral progress. In all of these places, humans developed for 3 million years to get to today, give or take. Our brains have developed. And because of that, eventually morality occurred, and morality continues to progress. This intellectual development results in knowledge, and knowledge reveals the need, and here comes the moral progress part, the need for justice and virtues, the qualities of effective moral progress. My thoughts? This is often achieved through trial and error, cause and effect. We make mistakes to the detriment of ourselves and others, until such time that pain and suffering is realized, knowledge is achieved, and then we begin to reduce or avoid those mistakes. So, we think about this in a global sense. Our Earth-only civilizations evolved through stages guided by their experiences. Now, over time, when you see this on the timeline, you will realize that these civilizations within themselves and between their civilizations there were conflicts. Those conflicts accelerated the progress of morality. Throughout history, we've experienced and know about revolutions and other types of challenges. And those are actually instruments of renewal. And that's a fun one to get into all by itself. But here's something you should understand. Sociology, humanization, civilization, and moral development as two parts of progress, but completely independent. And yet, they're interdependent. One needs each other in order to proceed in an infinity-like loop. But there's no time interdependency. They have their own time cycles, but they're all moving towards progress. So don't think that social and moral development occurs concurrently, simultaneously, or even in our own lifetime. All right, so let's talk about the timeline now, and we'll go back to these Spiritist principles on the law of progress. So again, almost 3 million years ago, we have the emergence of mankind. Took us 1.3 million years in using fire. Now, you got to believe as humans appeared, wherever they appeared, fire appeared in one form or another, but we didn't actually figure out how to make use of it. Isn't that interesting? And then we have this very interesting element of the agricultural revolution that occurs before Christ, where plants and animals become a key focal point for everyday life. You use the animals to maintain and grow the plants, clear the fields, etc. So again, we have the evolution of humanity from an intelligence standpoint out of need. And then you have this era that comes along called the ancient civilizations. Again, before Christ. But really, historians believe that in the area now known as Mesopotamia, the first cities began to emerge. And the cities were defined because there were governments. Now, somewhere a little while later, working backwards in time, we have the invention of writing. And that's the start of communications. That's the start of human law. That's the start of documenting spiritual law, divine laws. And by the way, that invention of writing occurred first in Sumeria, but in reality, it occurred in a very similar time frame in multiple places across the earth. That has a whole variety of implications by itself. Before Christ, we have the Bronze Age. And about 1200 BC, we have the rise of metallurgy, and that's the use of the earth's minerals for whatever purposes. But again, this is the evolution of human intelligence. And then we have something called the classical period, which is just before Jesus, where those cities have now grown to become organized into a republic. You also have now competitions. Now, those republics occurred, for a while, 200 plus years there. Before, we had multiple republics in multiple locations, and they had the first Olympic Games, the first competitive running games. Across the globe, 500 years later, the different republics, the different cities in China, that is the first unification of dynasties. And the Qin dynasty is born, and then there are subsequent dynasties that happen throughout Europe. So again, in this period, from the onset of mankind to just before Jesus is born, we have these 3 different eras. This is what it kind of looks like in a timeline. Okay, humanity begins out here, We have this prehistoric era, fire comes along, the ancient civilization era, that's the establishment of tribes and the start of beliefs and faiths. And then you have this classical period in a 500-year span. Human evolution really takes place. We have that agricultural evolution. Cities begin to emerge with governments. The whole communications and writing element, the use of metals, the Roman Republic. You'll see how this becomes interesting over time. The competitiveness of the Greek Olympics and the unification of China. Now, again, what was going on here in China, nobody knew about everything else here, but the rest of this is pretty concurrently experienced by humanity across Europe, Asia, Western Asia. Okay, and that's that classical period. So let's look at these two categories of law of progress principles. Progress is universally applying to all locations, to all life forms. Intellectual development precedes moral progress. So we went from this rawness of humanity for 2 million years before we started establishing beliefs and faiths. That's what historians believe anyway. So here's that human element of intellectual progress taking place in very savage, raw forms. And now the civilizations begin to evolve. And now you have this stuff happening. And this part about justice and virtue is interesting because there's a lot of writings about agricultural purpose. People were not owning the land, the cities owned the land to feed all the people during the classical period. Roman Republic was the first one to actually start home ownership. Oops. Start going this way. Sorry. I didn't do my slide progress effectively. Okay. So we're going to introduce a new role now. Free will and divine law. So humanity has free will, but it becomes dependent on divine law. In other words, all of humanity is following this, but individually we have this. How do they manifest themselves? With struggles, with mistakes. We can generally call them setbacks, but those setbacks are part of the learning process because it achieves in the long term progress, advancement. Now there's a justice factor, divine justice, because divine justice is seeking moral perfection. So justice ensures that moral order triumphs, but again, morality in its own timeline. Said another way, it would appear that humanity needs to learn repeatedly, minimize the suffering over time in order to achieve morality. That's me saying something probably I've already said here. Next. Freedom of will, trials and errors, and education facilitated for knowledge. So all the mistakes, all the disasters on things that occurred evolutionary-wise resulted in knowledge. Or in some cases, as many have written, consciousness. Morality, however, not achieved in the same time frame, and certainly not guaranteed to progress at all. In fact, we do this ebb and flow, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Before consciousness is raised and progress occurs. And a lot of historians that know history are saying, in this very lifetime, we are repeating history. So this 3 step forward, 2 step backwards has happened before. Not necessarily in this country, but it has happened before. So I'm going to take a sideline reference here to the book we have now finished, Heaven and Hell. But in part 2, chapter 7, there's a direct reference by a spirit who is summoned and offers a lot of perspective on this very topic. Most of the spirits who are bored look for an earthly existence only as a pastime and a means to break the monotony of the spirit life. And frequently re-enter their earthly lives without any definite resolution or mission to foster the good. And this in turn obligates them to start all over again in the next life until eventually progress is felt. So let's talk about that free will here, about how to overcome boredom. Whether you are incarnate or discarnate, how do we use our time? We've talked about that in Spiritism ever since I joined. How do we use our time? What do we do during our lives on earth to progress and not be bored? How much time do we devote to progress, or how much time do we devote to entertainment to cure our boredom? And if we are lucky enough to live long enough, we start asking ourselves, what happens when we age and retire from regular employment, which typically occupies 40 hours a week or more? But is it really true, historians, that it's only in the last few hundred years that we have created this type of situation for ourselves? Yeah, it is. Because all the luxuries of life and potential for financial earnings at an old age that you can just sit back in your rocking chair every day and do nothing, that's only within the last few hundred years across the globe. Oh yeah, there have been selected monarchs, but even they had responsibilities. What do we do with our time? How are we spending our time as we age? So I think there are 6 key historical events which continue to shape the future of mankind, and they come in the next groups. The Middle Ages, where we have the fall of the Roman Empire and the beginning of the Dark Ages. Charlemagne gets crowned as a Holy Roman Empire across a huge geography, a single person. Then we have the rise of feudalism in Europe. If you don't know what feudalism is, you owe it yourself to look it up in a dictionary. We then have the early modern period, which is the end of the Byzantine Empire and the fall of Constantinople. These were 2 very pivotal governments because they served as the models for other governments. Blah, 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 Columbus comes west. Martin Luther creates the Protestant Reformation, challenging traditional Christianity. Now, why are these 6 events so pivotal? Well, it's interesting how frequently they are referred to in the history of the world and the progress of humanity, because there were learning experience realized. This one is kind of interesting because, yeah, it had a real-time learning, but really it's the after learning that has shaped a lot of things. And of course, in the 16th century, early 16th century, we had the challenge to traditional Catholicism, Christianity. And nothing's been the same since. How does that look here? So here's that classical period we were in. And here are the Middle Ages, the first 1,000 years BC, or AD, pardon me. Now, I'm going to introduce something here, and that's global viruses. Okay. And so the first documented plague occurs in this time frame of the Middle Ages. All the while, countries are evolving, governments are evolving, emerging, sometimes first time, sometimes just continuing to evolve. And we have this whole phrasing of what is called the Dark Ages. Historians, you can go off on the Dark Ages because there are so many elements of this relative to human cruelty. We have the fall of Rome after the establishment of the Roman Republic. We have the reestablishment within 500 years of Charlemagne. I spelled it wrong. And we have European feudalism taking place into the next 500 years when these governments have organized militia. A for defense and B for conquering. And again, we have human tragedies. This early modern period is characterized by the Black Plague, which comes at the tail end of the Dark Ages. How do we look at social and moral development throughout all of this? Well, civilizations evolve through stages, guided by those experiences, some of them very painful experiences, ghastly experiences in terms of morality. There are conflicts and suffering occurring of the worst kind in the worst volumes, but that accelerates progress. In this case, moral progress. Killing is wrong. People begin to wake up. And so we have revolutions where the ruling party, the ruling individual is overthrown. The militaries decide to take government into its own hands, or a different military revolution, expunges the previous military regime, et cetera, et cetera. These are all challenges and instruments of renewal. Think of the non-military personnel and how they have to adjust to what's going on in their country. And you want a real world example, you can go to Central and South America and talk to people who in this lifetime have gone through multiple regimes. Throw in the role of free will and the mixing in of divine laws. So we have free will, but we're still subject to divine law. Those setbacks serve for long advancement. Remember what's going on in those timelines, those 6 key events. Let's go forward. The modern era. Here in America, we have the birth of America. And it doesn't take long for America to become known throughout Europe. Because French Revolution begins, and that's kind of based on what was going on right there. But our learning in the modern era is really difficult. World War I and II completely reshapes everything. What we thought we knew changed substantially. And again, we're going to come back and look at this with morality in mind. And then we have the contemporary period, our lifetime for those of us who are lucky enough to say so. We have the end of the Cold War, the dissolution of the Soviet Union. The wall came down. All those separate countries, some of which are still fighting for independence. And then in 2001, the US, that's the September 11th. Whatever your belief is of that happened or didn't happen the way it was communicated, boy, I use those words diligently. The truth is, it happened. We saw it. We know people who were impacted. And then we have COVID-19. Now, real or not, overblown or not, vaxxed or not, it's a worldwide reality. And the education associated with man-made viruses is now not in question. So the impacts of these 6 are huge. Throughout it, we have humanity being resistant, ignorant, selfish, materialistic. The lessons learned are slow. The advancement of morality is slow. But it cannot prevent it from evolving. It will evolve. It'll just be in its own time and painful. This challenges our perseverance. It tests our ability to put up with it, to roll with it, to work change, to not become complacent. It challenges us to continue educating ourselves. You can't turn off learning, especially for the next generation. But even if you have a solid understanding of the law of progress relative to history, you cannot change unpredictability. There's no way of knowing what or when any or all of its resistance will surface, nor the impact resistance will have in slowing progress. There's no way of knowing. There's no way of predicting. So in the contemporary period, let's see what has happened. In the modern period, 1500 to 2000, the revolution, establishment of America, awareness of America, world wars, democracy versus communism, which is still going on. By the way, you could go into socialism and you can go into progressive, this is just one approach versus another approach. That's all this really means. You have the post-World War reality of Arab versus Israeli wars. You can't change the fact that it began here after World War II, and it's still going on. You cannot change that. You cannot change the fact that there are multiple religious and geographical disputes still occurring over 500 years plus into this new period. You cannot deny the fact that there are dictatorships and genocides that were going on throughout this whole period and continue to this day. And on the local front, cannot deny the fact that wherever America was at the turn of the century, I have no idea where we are and where we're going today. I have no idea. Hard to put words here. So let's look at this side by side. Free will, subject to divine law. Setbacks serve for long-term advancement. Justice ensures that moral order triumphs in its own timeline. Well, I'm going to try to find some optimism here. Challenge. But in this contemporary period of 500 plus years, we're only at 2025, remember? What have we learned? How have we seen divine law appear? Well, there's a couple different things I could talk about as potential ways to explain it. In this time frame, what else we have? We have the evolution of technology. We have the evolution of communications, the internet, the ability to have instantaneous communication from my wrist or anywhere I choose to be. The ability to stay in touch with your loved ones, drop of a hat, to discover where they are on a map. Okay, there's some good things that have happened. Some of them have really good long-term advancement. I can, when I had a dog, I could find my dog at any time. She's registered and the thing's sending out a beep. I mean, there's so many good things that have happened with technology and the internet, and yet we have the advent of AI with a whole lot of misunderstanding, etc. Fear, absolutely. Robotics. Where's the moral order? It's coming. That's all we can say. Divine law will take care of itself. We'll all figure it out. What happens with these other things? I give up. Here's the resistance factor again. Think about where resistance is in all of this. Ignorant people, selfish people, materialistic people, all slowing progress. But divine evolution continues. Humans are impacted to one extent or another, sometimes positively. Well, here comes that technology thing again. You know how many millionaires have been made? You know how many billionaires have been made because of technology? What are they doing with that money? Well, some of them are doing the right thing. The ex-wife of the founder of Facebook, I think it is, just gave away $9 billion or $19 billion. But she makes that back in 2 years. You know, I give up. I give up how we test human perseverance and learning throughout this contemporary period that we are living. Oh, by the way, let's go back and look at these pandemics. In this period, towards the end, throughout this 500-year period, look at this. We had smallpox, cholera, Russian flu, Spanish flu, H3N2 flu. That was in the 1900s. And of course, HIV/AIDS. And we solved them. We figured out what caused them and we solved it. That's educational progress. We had SARS. We figured it out. We didn't necessarily solve it, but it certainly did raise consciousness about the air we breathe, which was already a conscious reality. And then we have this. And in the aftermath of this from 2020, you first of all, you have to go back 3-4 years before that to start getting the full picture. But what has happened since, what I would say is a failure of humanity in so many different ways. What have we learned? I'm not sure. We're still living through it. Where's the resistance? Governments. They don't want to take accountability. Private business convinces governments to not hold them accountable as well. And the lawyers get fat. And I said enough. So what is the mission of progressive spirits? What is this topic all about? Because now we're going to try to put some positivity into this presentation. So progressive spirits who reincarnate, eventually reincarnate with a conscious mission to educate, to work towards reformation, to become inventors, to further humanity through examples often, as opposed to a global impact type of thing. Although many people will say that certain musicians have more of an impact than all of this in terms of being able to affect an entire globe of humanity. Enlightened spirits will reincarnate to advance moral awareness. Now, that's the consciousness factor. And now I'm going to tell you all, start looking at yourself. Maybe in this lifetime, by being a spiritist, you have continued your education. You have been part of the Reformation. You might have even been an inventor to create a presentation like I've done today. Or like some of us do every day as we post. Maybe the spirit world looks at us as enlightened or semi-enlightened spirits. And we are here in this lifetime to advance this moral awareness, this consciousness that I'm speaking about right now. Anya, sunshine, you have done this for me. You have advanced my moral awareness through your presentations, through your communications on spiritist principles, just in the manner in which you do it. And I could talk about a number of people throughout the country and the world that do that. There's a mission of these progressive spirits to uplift and inspire societies. And guess what? As a spiritist center, we are a society. We are our own society. We are part of a greater society. kind of mind-boggling to consider what each of us has been in a previous incarnation this way, and what role we might have had in this evolution of humanity at whatever point in time. And I once did a presentation on this very topic. Equally, key individuals who have shaped humanity as we know it today. Across the spectrum, from the most evil and self-centered to the most angelic and beneficial to all of humanity. And through it all, these laws of progress apply to each and every one of us. And then, those ones at either end of the spectrum. So, think about it in this contemporary period when worldwide communications now exist, and we are very much conscious of all of these factors. Not necessarily depth of knowledge, but aware, conscious. How has that information come to us? How have we passed on the lessons learned with this kind of knowledge? What have the enlightened spirits incarnated to do during this time frame, advancing this moral awareness? What are we doing to advance moral awareness? Because those, maybe us, our mission is to uplift and inspire societies. Well, maybe this education today will be the start of that. Because in this very same time frame, we start asking ourselves these very same criteria, this very same category of the mission. How we do all this? What did we do? What did we learn? How have we participated in communicating this to advance moral awareness and prepare ourselves for what's next? So, what's next? Who knows, first of all? Only God. So, but we do know that God has this as a goal. Eventually, humanity on this planet, I guess, will achieve this. All perfection, what a concept. Knowledge and virtue will unite in harmony. That one is an awesome concept. Hard to envision the path. A regenerated earth will embody fraternity and justice. It better. It absolutely better. The truth of the words brother and sister will result in justice when we treat each other, respect each other as brother and sister. We will begin to achieve justice. So again, I acknowledge to all of you, you've given me the opportunity to progress through this knowledge and apply it as I'm trying to do today. But if I didn't have faith in the future of humanity, these very 3 sentences, if I didn't have that faith, difficult to overcome what happens on a daily basis, whatever life throws us. It's difficult to continue progressing. We have to have optimism that we're in the right place at the right time to assist ourselves, our families, our friends, and humanity in whatever way we can towards the goal of moral perfection. Wow. Remember, this next 500 period, you're only in the first 25 years. So there's a lot of things going on a geographically local level, this giant question mark right here. But if this is where we're going, when the spirits have kind of indicated that we're going to turn a major corner towards this within the next, short period of time, supposedly. I don't know how that will occur, what that path looks like, but there's an indication that that's coming. And we take a very strong step towards this embodiment of fraternity and justice. So, as I put this together, this last slide I just wrote this morning. Repeating, progress is a divine and universal force. There's nothing I can do to change the fact that humans will progress slowly, because we'll do so through struggle, through knowledge and consciousness, moral awakening, and we'll move towards moral perfection. Every single day, every single hour, we may encounter challenges, and we may realize the opportunity and take the steps to reform ourselves, because doing so contributes to our own evolution and societies as a whole. So earlier I talked about the spirit who spoke of boredom, and I ended it with this perspective of time. And so it is that one that hits me right here, because the challenge of reform as a retiree is to stay active towards the goal. And you know, I've been lucky enough to do that. I've got 2 new nonprofits I'm involved in right now. And it's pretty cool, because it's part of my reformation. Just ask yourself, and ask those around you, how many times do you get out of yourself in the daily grind and actually think about where you're going and where you need to try to be. And by the way, here's what that whole timeline looks like. I thought this was too much to constantly refer to, so I broke it up in sections. So if anybody would like this, I'll be glad to send this to you. You can just drop me a message in WhatsApp.
Wow, Mark, you did it again. I appreciate so much the effort that you put to compile all this information. It is really interesting. Well, the floor is open for anybody that would like to bring questions to Mark or say something, compliment anything. I would like to initiate that by my takeaway from your presentation, especially in the beginning, is that that we have one creator that is creating since eternity. It's been creating from the very beginning, and it will continue and continues to create. And our present stage or presence here at this moment is just a moment in this eternal line of time. And that we are creator, simple and ignorant beings. So no matter how minuscule or how large we are, but we are created simple and minuscule. And we endowed with the instinct of survival. We are created, but we have this instinct, okay, I gotta survive. I'm here and I gotta progress. And with that instinct, we have the gift of free will. We decide where we want to go. We decide which direction. So we have this power of making choices and decisions and how far or which direction we want to go. So this progress is an impulse. It's a sense of movement. Nobody stays stuck unless if you choose to stay stuck. But eventually, you're not going to be there for very long, because things will kind of, the trials and tribulations will force you to evolve or to make a move. So, and in all this, we can count on the supervision of enlightened and superior spirits. The spirits that ahead of us have gone through all what we're going through, and they have the love to come back and assist us in our evolution. So that's the spiritual mentors. And of course, this progress is done in the whole universe. And we are here on planet Earth, in our solar system, in this realm where Jesus Christ, whatever his name is, but the Christ, is the one that supervises all this. We can count on that. So I really appreciate you bringing to our attention that evolution is something that we are in this path, we are in this current of evolution, and we keep moving forward. I appreciate your presentation. Please, anybody, open up your mic and present yourself. Thank you.
Hey, Mark, is like a history class today, you know? I went back to school, studying socialism too. So it is a lot. And one of the books that I love the most on Emmanuel through Chico Xavier is The Way Through the Light. So that book is teaching us a lot about what the earth has gone through in the human evolution. Going through the teachings of Jesus, he taught us a lot, and it was simple teachings. Remember us every day how to evolve, how to be obedient, how to serve others through the parable of the Good Samaritan, how to honor one another. And in the Spiritus book on the moral and progress, in the chapter 12 too, that is one of the, for me, I love that part of the Spiritus book. But one caught me the most attention is when they said, comparing the two men that was born. One was born in a very rich family, and the other one has to work hard to make his fortune. And then I asking to the spirit, I thought was brilliant, a question, and which one is the best, the most evolved morally? And what do you think the answer was? The one who was born wealth in a wealth family, or the one who make all his fortune working? So surprisingly, is the one who worked very hard to make his fortune. He could be the slow advancement and evolve in perfection. And it's true, all the knowledge the spirit needs to evolve, all because the spirit most developing all its intellectuality, but the one who make all his fortune and was poor, go through hungry, go through homeless, like not have a house to live, not have the best clothes or the best shoes or the best food to eat. So that one, it is the most imperfect. Why? Because he go through his own self what others going through. Most of the population of this planet, and the selective ones are wealth or make their fortune through intellectuality and opportunities. Right now, we have more rich people in the earth than we ever have before. And why? Because he went through and took all his money to himself. Do not share with others. I did myself, so they have to work, they have to make themselves to do the same path I did. So Kardec brings to us what the teachings of Christianity is brought to us is the evolution, and every stage of evolution morally progressing is through charity, is due to unto other what you others do unto yourself, and not expecting anything in return. When you donate to charity that feed others, don't expect what they are doing with their money. We are doing our part, working, helping, but the most important is who donate the money is important, but the most important is those who are there. I apologize, really apologize to you, Regina. I really apologize. And as we are among brothers and sisters, I could experience yesterday Regina and Valerie feeding 80 homeless. I could participate emotionally. I could participate spiritually, how the spiritual world work together with us when we are on the need, on the desire to spend yourself and share the time with others. I will never forget yesterday, Gina. As I never forget every day that we are here for service, and I miss a lot the service to have all of us have gone through. We lost someone that we love. We have been a very serious illness. If we had not, we are so blessed. But we have witnessed someone close to us who has been through that. So the most blessed opportunity that I always said, to be of service, and it is one of the greatest opportunity to progress, to morally progress our spirit during this time on earth. Because, my beloved brothers and sisters, like our brother taught us today, brought the memory, reminding us the law of progress, the time we have been coming to earth. As he was speaking, I was saying, my gosh, how long I have been here on earth. How long? Because when he starts talking about history, it's like he's talking about our past. And how long it will take for us to move forward. Because in the spiritual books said, like one life here, one life is like 1 hour in the spiritual world. One life, one whole life over here. So what we are doing with our time, Divaldo, Chico, and all the other great brothers and workers out there, they all talk about time. And Mark brought us today again. I got a earful to Mark because what are we doing with our time? It is a very important topic, really mass insight. And I appreciate the opportunity we are here together, sharing with one another. But for the spirit, the most important way to progress is to do unto others what you want others do unto you, is to love. Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate that.
I would just say one other thing. It was so difficult throughout this to not talk about the other laws because they're all intertwined and such, it was really difficult to stay focused on this material. Thank you.
Emmanuel calls time the divine talisman, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it really is super important that we ask ourselves that question. Thank you for reminding us, Mark. And in terms of charity, we know Kardec taught us there's no salvation without charity. And, charity, we don't need to go out and feed the homeless. Yes, it's a beautiful thing to do, but every thought really can be charitable. And hopefully we'll start right here because, going out to feed the homeless comes from our thinking, right? But if we don't have charitable thinking, and that translates into our feelings, and that's what makes the world a better place because everything ripples out. Everything touches everyone all the time. And so many people say, yeah, but I don't have any means to go out and help, and I'm sick, and this and that and the other. But we can be on our deathbed and still be charitable, right?
Very good.
Really something to remember. And also, thank you, Mark, for the timeline and all the information showing us how much and how little we have developed. Really, right? And I'm again reminded of Emmanuel in Light Ahead when he says that the true revolution is that of our inner transformation, which leads us back to charity, of course, as the bottom line. So my life has become to less look to the outside and get all derailed, depressed, upset, or even elated. If I feel, is that really how I want to spend my time? So the answer is no. I mean, I much rather, even if I just garden or be with my granddaughter, watch my thoughts, right? And see that everything, and out of that comes the charity that the world needs. And one thought at a time that transforms our world, our personal and the outside world. So as Emmanuel says, the next revolution, and we are in it, is an inner revolution. It's from the inside out, not from the outside in. And I really love that. And I really take that to heart. So thank you. Thank you, Mark. I'm grateful.
Yeah, that is so true. But it is all going do unto others. And I really say I apologize to the homeless who are going through that as an example. But what I really see is like I could hear some say to Regina and Valerie when they offer, do you want a lunch? And I could hear someone say, "Oh, you made my day today." And I have another guy, and I could see this beautiful lady next to this guy. And when Valerie started to talk to him, and I could see like a mother was so happy on the spiritual life as a spirit. And she was there visiting her son in that situation, that trial, because we each of us go through our individual trials. And when they offered him the lunch, he said, "You made my birthday today." So for me, how beautiful one helping other in that way, no? We don't know. We don't know. We at BS8 Center has not done much physically, but spiritually is a lot. We are progressing, we are studying, we are evolving together intellectually and morally. It is so good for me when we have these brothers and sisters names on the list for healing, because if we don't have any person there, any name there, we don't have opportunity to serve. And when someone go to the table, we on Mondays we do healing service, the medium group. And I will tell you, what a consistent group. Everybody's there. Nobody complains. No, everybody make effort to be there, no matter what their life goes around, because we want to embrace that opportunity to serve. And the names come, and one person come with a lot of problems. So imagine 50, 70 people. And we are there. We don't worry about, oh, that spirit is accompanying them, will be us persecuting us. No, because we are with a good will to do something good to others. And at the end, my beloved brothers and sisters, you know what happened? Many of the other souls, they have discarnated because we do for spiritual who are not in the body and for physical treatment. Spiritual helping physical treatment, and for the spirit who has passed or are around us. And you have no idea how many comes back with a heart of gratitude for the clarification, for not being ignorant about the spiritual life anymore, seeing that they are moving forward. So yes, everything is opportunity to progress. Every single thing. Let we not forget about that. And I really thank you all of you again. Thanks, Sunshine, for that. So good.
If I may, I just want to point out the difficulty, if you will, of this topic, law of progress, and then start thinking about moral justice and progress towards morality in a country. Not trying to criticize, but just look at what we have. We have a capitalistic country which basically directs our activities. In other words, if a person starts to make a little money, you guys already mentioned earlier, all the number of millionaires in the country now as opposed to some time before. What causes that? That becomes a lot of people's particular goal, to make money. And how do you make money? And we have all these TV programs too. People can become influenced by the way they see people making money, which is taking advantage of other people to make money. That's not moral, right? And so that there's a problem. So there could be a lot of money gained through immoral acts and ways that we might use later in some charitable way, but it adds to the confusion. That's why I'm saying this topic, I think, has been a big challenge. But it also makes you question yourself about what are you doing? Okay, what am I doing personally, to try to improve and so forth. But anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge that. And again, the challenges of the capitalistic country trying to be moral. I think that's a challenge.
Thanks, Ken.
Very good reminder, Ken.
I wanted to say first off that yes, we are a spiritual group growing and evolving, but one things that was missing, according to Dr. Paulo, was being charitable on a physical level. And one of the other things that was mentioned was about how the vibration of love and charity. When these people we don't know receive a lunch, the gratitude is immense. And the first thing out of majority of their mouth is, thank God. Oh, I'm so grateful to God. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But I know they're thanking God. Now, imagine the beings that are around them experiencing their vibration of love and gratitude. We've had one guy say, I was starving. I didn't know how I was going to eat. It breaks my freaking heart to hear this kind of thing. And we spend 3 hours, sometimes 4, running around looking for individuals who are not capable of getting a decent lunch or something. And once a week is not enough. It's not enough, but that's all I can do by myself and Valerie, And sometimes it is hard to get people to come and help, and it takes time putting all this stuff together every week. I'm grateful to be able to do it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. I'm very, very grateful to help the spiritual vibration that we need for Monday night. I know a lot of people feel that all they have to do is think about being grateful. No, it's a lot to help the vibration. Even on Monday night, it's more than that person we are sharing with, that name that's on that list. the vibration goes out to everybody. It's like that rock that hits the water, it pulls out. So my gratitude is never just because I'm here. I'm grateful to be able to be of service. That's mine. That's how I feel. I don't brag about it. I don't go out and hoo-ha around about it. I just pray that, the donations come without people pinching, and squeezing me. Can I get? No, do it from your heart. You don't wanna? Okay. I don't beg. I don't bother. If it comes, I'm grateful to God, believe me. If it doesn't, I pull it out my own pocket, which I do all the time anyway. But I'm thankful. I'm very, very thankful. Believe me. I'm grateful to all that do donate. I appreciate you all, always. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. And I have recently had surgery again. I hope it's my last from my cancer treatment. I really hope and feel that is the last one. And I just want to share with you with the Monday group. Every single Monday for these 2 years, almost 3 years of treatment, when I am not able to be part of it, you have no idea the blessings. The moment the work is been doing, as I'm sensitive medium, you have no idea the visit I receive from the Spirit and the love that I feel from the group and the prayers and the love. I feel so much loved, and my whole cells work hardly to recompose whatever is in need for not having a bad bacteria or infection, inflammation. And I'm just witnesses what our group are doing together. So I thank you all for this too. Thank you. Thank you, Gina.
And so we would like to ask you to help us and please add your names to the list before tomorrow night's session, okay? Because we're starting a new list so that we have the opportunity to be of service and do it effortlessly. Thank you so much. The list is ready.
Well, it's very interesting, the conversation. I'm sure that we have many more questions to ask and to contribute to Mark's contribution to the group. But I would like to invite us to go to the next phase, to the next part of the meeting. Can we take a couple minutes break, go get your water, and we come back for the Healing Passes session. Thank you.
I'm going to take my bottle of water.
So who's stopping the recording? You, Mark? She